Happy Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
I think this
actually
is the,
completely forgot what day it was.
It's the Julie and Maddy show.
It is the Julie and Maddy show. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, everyone.
Rêve Health.
We're going to just do a very informal, we're just going to chat for as long as we're going to chat about why us and why is Rêve different than other biomarker testing companies out there and other women's health companies. And I think we're going to start with just three big things, and then we're just going to chat, and we're going to have it be very casual.
Yeah.
But the biggest one is and the question we've been getting from some people is, why is it more expensive than other lab testing companies? And I know that you can speak to it, but it's elevated, latest science, the best of the best labs.
Yeah, we know it's expensive. We recognize that it's expensive. We are familiar with other testing companies on the market, and typically for testing twice a year, you're looking at around $700 to $1,000. Our price point is higher, and we know that. And that is a few different reasons. Our lab testing, the test that we picked to establish our baseline foundational health, is really, really different than other companies. For example, on our lab test, we look at a 4-point cortisol test along with DHEA. In other companies, they're just doing blood work. So they're looking at one cortisol test that gives you 1 point of what your cortisol is like during the day. Our test is a saliva-based test. It tells you where your cortisol curve is like at 4 points throughout the day. It just gives you a lot more information about what your cortisol is actually doing versus one singular blood work marker. So while the tests on paper may seem similar, the way that we're conducting the data and the way that we're collecting it and analyzing it is really different.
Really different. Yeah. And it's also blood, urine, saliva, and hair.
Yeah.
So Maddy and I, but mostly Maddy because she's the one who's the functional health expert, but we went through these labs, each one individually, and we said, okay, we're going to be more elevated here. We're going to do the tests that are the latest science. And some of the tests that are out there, quite frankly, the results aren't that accurate.
Yeah.
And then you can't even get an assessment out of it with actionable items. What is the cost of health? And I will talk a little bit about this right now before we even talk about why we're totally different. I spent more than $50,000 on my surgeries 2 years ago. And I lost 6 months of work, which is more than $50,000 because I hadn't been testing my biomarkers. And if I had, not only would I have been able to avoid the surgeries, I would have avoided 7 years of my life being less than optimal. My quality of life was really low. I couldn't go travel. I couldn't go on business trips. I was worried every single day about leaving the house because of crime scene periods and other issues. Maddy suffering from Lyme, these things that showed up in biomarker testing.
Yeah.
But they didn't necessarily show up as real actionable symptoms of a disease that a doctor could pinpoint until you got the lab work.
Yeah.
And until I got the lab work and we saw.
Yeah, and we saw. So we recognize that the cost is higher than other companies on the market. And we consider the test to be that valuable. It is foundational levels to your health. So understanding toxicity levels in your body plays a huge role into conception. It plays a huge role into perimenopause symptoms.
Yep.
I can't emphasize that enough. And your stress levels also play a huge role. Your blood sugar balancing, all the things that are on our lab work, it really helps with both of these stages of life,
and anything in between. And I think that that's the key. And it's not just that. I mean, we talk about the cost of the actual test, which is costing us.
Yeah.
It costs us.
Yeah, of course.
Passing that cost to you. But for me and Maddy, the most important thing was actually the personalization.
Yeah, of course.
So there are a lot of companies out there that say that they're personalized, and we have tried them. And the one that I tried, and we're not going to name names, but I got my personalized report, and it was essentially 1 page of a PDF, and it was written by AI. I'm positive it was. I don't think if a doctor did look at it, because I don't know for sure, it was probably a quick scan or a quick review. And some of the recommendations for me were eat wild boar, and I'm a vegetarian. Work out more, but I work out every single day. And it didn't look at all into my sleep patterns, my relationships, my toxic environment, anything. Didn't ask me any questions. And there was no ability to actually speak with a human. I sent an email, giving some feedback, and it took 3 weeks for me to get a response, and I was a paying customer. Definitely not personalized. So one of the things that we did is we created this 6-month program for the foundation protocol. And as of the recording, we only have the foundation protocol, but we're working on the longevity one. But either way, we're going to test at the beginning, and then you're going to test again 5 or 6 months later. And we're going to have 3 guidance calls with you at the beginning, in the middle, and after your second round, so you can actually compare and you can check in with us while you're doing these lifestyle recommendations. We have a consortium, like a team. I mean, I was calling it an amalgamation of just these holistic coaches, from nutritionists to exercise scientists to relationship experts, and they're going to be looking together with us at the lab work. And that is when you get a truly customized guidance plan on a holistic level. And then our team is going to talk you through it, and we'll have conversations. That's pretty unique. We didn't see anything like it out there. Certainly not from a holistic angle, and certainly not, I'm just going to say it, coaches that have no training whatsoever, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Yeah, there isn't anything like it on the market. And being able to do this from a holistic standpoint, where we're looking at labs that we have a lot of confidence in, that we know are giving you a lot of information, approaching it from understanding all aspects of your life, your relationships, the way you live your life, the things you're exposed to. Your attachment style is even one of the questions in our intake form, because it affects your physiology, your stress levels, of course. And being able to do this in a community of women who all have similar values and similar lifestyles and similar aspirations for their health, who want to be able to address these things holistically. We've talked so much about this, but I mean, I'm in the functional medicine world. I've trained under some of the top functional medicine doctors. I have certifications from really prestigious functional medicine training programs. And functional medicine has become so disappointing. Yeah. It's really just like a pill for every ill. Yeah. It's no different. As it's conventional Western medicine. It's so silly. And we keep throwing supplements at things the same way we throw medications, without any evaluation of what it is that the beliefs that we have about our lives, how we're living our lives, how we're relating to other people, what our home is like. And it's just become so ridiculous to me. I mean, I left my private practice to do this business because it's something so strongly I believe in. Because even that, while it was helping people, I didn't have the opportunity to really work with a broad spectrum of people and help change their lives. And that's what's so important. I mean, as someone who's done the functional medicine world, it is helpful, but only so much as you have the tools and the accessibility to change your life.
Well, and even to that point, I remember when I had my fibroid surgeries 2 years ago, one of the doctors said, well, we really recommend a hysterectomy, because the reality is 90% of women who have a myomectomy, which is just removing the fibroids, get them back. And I was like, well, why does that happen? And it's because the environment doesn't change. If you don't change the environment of your uterus, they're going to come back, just like any condition could come back. So for me, that was a real wake-up call. Well, I'm going to make sure I change the environment so that they don't come back. And they have not come back, and they won't come back, because now I know. Now I'm aware of what causes them, and I've changed every aspect. So when I start seeing myself in a toxic environment, or even with consulting, which I was doing, I'm a startup person. Mm-hmm. So, we'll introduce ourselves a little bit more than that later, but I've been doing startups for more than 20, 25 years, but I started doing a consultancy because I thought it would be less stressful than startups, but it was really misaligned. I wasn't having a good time, and I had a pretty negative experience back in April with a client. And at that point, I could feel my cortisol rising. I could feel that I was, entering into relationships that weren't serving me well. Every single thing was starting to affect my health. And my hair was falling out again. And my nails were getting brittle again. And you have to be very cognizant of your entire environment. It didn't matter how many times a week I was working out or my healthy diet. It doesn't matter if the entire environment. So that's one of the things, we created a community,
Mm-hmm.
because that community of other women are going to help you, keep you accountable. You can say things like, oh, wow, I was doing really well, and then these things are happening to me, and have other people guide you and support you through that.
Yeah. Like-minded women who can relate.
Yeah.
We all have lives,
Yes.
We have careers, and we're building this startup company. And to preface this, our cortisol's been a little high lately. So before we filmed this, we did eye yoga together.
Yes, we did, which is really cool.
Yeah,
it's sort of like EMDR. It's like it's making it was shifting how your brain is from this not relaxed state to a relaxed state.
Yeah.
And we'll be doing things like that with our meditation Mondays in the community, and then on Wednesdays it's a give and take.
Yep.
And then asking what your big dreams are. It could be for the day or week or year or even your life. And how are you meeting those goals? These are the things that we needed.
Yeah.
So biomarker testing, yes. And I want to talk a little bit more about the science of it too.
Yeah,
and even there's so much we can talk about. And epigenetic change. We just posted a little video of me talking about perimenopause. I can't tell you how many women 40 plus are being told that you're supposed to wait it out, have these crappy experiences for 10 plus years on this journey to menopause. Or a woman in their 30s sort of thinking that, I don't know, that you wake up at 50 and you just don't have your period anymore, and that's not what happens. Mm-hmm. You have this roller coaster of imbalanced hormones that cause all kinds of weird symptoms. 5 years ago, doctors didn't even talk about it. Nobody talked about it. Now it's become a term. But now it's this, you're just supposed to deal with it for 10 years. And, we can all collaborate together about how awful it is. You don't actually have to have it be awful. I have no symptoms anymore. None. Not traditional perimenopause symptoms. I'm having normal periods. They're absolutely a lot different than what they used to be when I had fibroids. A lot of the times these symptoms are not perimenopause, but they're actually something else, like a fibroid or fibroids or adenomyosis or endometriosis or even PCOS. It could be something else. We don't know what it is. But this blanket term of it's supposed to be that way is simply not true. And if you get to you have to know what's happening on a cellular level. Mm-hmm. But then once you do, you can make the changes. You can make epigenetic change through your lifestyle, through your diet, through your stress, your mindset. We were talking about mindset architect. Makes a big difference. Your sleep, your relationships, the environmental toxins, things that you can do every day and make the changes. And it's going to catch up to you one way or another. You're either going to have 10 years of that, or you can take back control, like I did, and you can start even reversing your age, your biological age. So yeah, do I think that I feel more like 40 or younger? Yes.
Yeah,
I do at this point, because I've affected my body on a cellular level. And it's kind of nice.
Of course. It's so nice.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Not that I have anything about aging. Aging is a normal thing, but feeling like crap is not
your
normal.
Health span.
Yep.
And feeling good.
Thriving. No matter what age.
Absolutely. And in my private practice, I was seeing a lot of women who were struggling with conception and fertility-based issues. And it would range anywhere from people just being nervous that now they're hearing a lot more about people having difficulty conceiving. Again, something 5-10 years ago, a lot of people didn't really talk about, didn't really seem like that as big of an issue. And now everyone almost knows someone who is in IVF. I mean, I can count on, I need multiple hands and feet to be able to count on the number of people I know who have gone through or are going through IVF.
Yep. Especially, even toward, in your 40s, early 40s, mid 40s, and it's expensive and it's hard on the body.
Yep.
And it sometimes doesn't work. You got multiple, like 3, 4, I know somebody who had 5 rounds.
Absolutely. And often these people are, there's not a whole lot of exploration done to determine like why, why this issue might be coming up for them, why they're having difficulty conceiving, why is there endometriosis, why is there PCOS, and the underlying root causes for those things aren't so different. Oftentimes it's related to a body that's stressed out with hormone imbalances, toxicity, and nutrient deficiencies. We look at all of those things.
Yep.
So we don't necessarily care about the label. And functional medicine and traditional Chinese medicine is brilliant at this. A diagnosis ultimately isn't so helpful. It's just a piece of information, but the underlying causes are exceptionally helpful. That's where the lab testing comes in. But seeing women who are so nervous now in their 20s and 30s, people who are wanting to start trying to conceive earlier because they have no idea if they're going to be able to have the children that they want, take the guessing out of it. Start doing the advanced testing. And I always tell people, start earlier than what you think. And what I've been telling my friends, if you're single and on the apps, now is the perfect time to start your preconception journey.
Right.
Because do it now, invest in your health now, so you don't even have to sweat it. You can extend potentially your fertility.
Right. That's a whole nother discussion, but my biological age, which is tracked through my cells and through the functional testing that I've been doing for years, since my surgery, right? When I was determined to completely change my life, but I reversed it 15 years. And as a result, it's possible that I've extended my fertility. Who knows how long, but I feel that I have. And so that gives an option too, for especially, I'm over 50. A lot of women over 50 don't want children anymore. We're done, right? You're done. I get it. Your kids are in college. You don't want to deal with it. But some do. And if you're 35 and you're thinking now is not the time to have kids, what if you don't want to freeze your eggs? What if you don't want to do IVF later on? Maybe in the future you don't have to. This is new science.
Yeah,
and it might sound really sci-fi and a little crazy, but there's a lot of companies out there trying to extend your lifespan to 100 plus or 120. And yet they're not even looking at whether or not a woman's fertility span could be increased. I find that really disappointing. But we are part of it. We're part of the change. And then even it's if you live long enough, you are going to have menopause.
Of course.
That is going to happen to you. It's going to happen to all women, right? So, 20, 25, and you're thinking, wow, it's so far away. Not that far away. It happens faster than you think, that you start entering into your 40s and having this roller coaster. But what if you didn't?
Right.
And what if you don't have menopause until 60? How is that more crazy than people saying you're going to live into 100, 120? I don't think anything is impossible. And that's part of what we're doing too, is to say, we don't really know what the future is going to be, but we want to be a part of making it great and people thriving at any age. And the earlier that you can take care of your health, and the more that you know at an early age, the better off you're going to be. Oh, we should probably talk a little bit about biohacking too, because I've been doing it. Yeah. I got some questions once about, well, if you've been biohacking, we don't like that word, but it's the term for this kind of stuff. But if you've been doing it, how did you end up with surgeries? Well, some of what I was doing was very masculine. I was following all the trends in Silicon Valley. I was doing my cold plunges and then going into a sauna and back and forth, which is pretty stressful for a woman's body, which you can talk about.
Chinese medicine is a big no, but it is
a big no.
It just depends on where you're at. If your cortisol is high,
right.
For women, it's usually not very helpful. Usually can send people into having more cortisol imbalances, more blood sugar imbalances. Right. So it just depends.
Or my diet was pretty great in some ways, but not completely, because as a vegetarian, I ate a lot of cheese, which I didn't realize the dairy was contributing to my fibroids and stress was contributing. So even though I worked out, ate relatively great with a Mediterranean diet, all organic, it was still fueling fibroids, which I didn't even realize because nobody told me that that could be the case. And I wasn't checking my biomarkers. It would have showed up. But I also think that things like fasting. So when I first met Maddy, I thought I was doing a pretty good job. I was fasting, every night from 8 p.m. until about 1, I actually would try to go as long as possible, 3, 4 p.m. before eating again. And I had had some recent heart biomarkers that were not great. And they were okay, but for the way I live my life, they were really disappointing. And this other lab testing company, saying that the solution was to work out more, Maddy, who, said, no, you looked at my labs and said, I think you should say what you said because it was so nice.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much good there, which I think is so important to start with, acknowledging how much your body's showing up for you, that our body is responding and hanging out and keeping up with us amongst busy lives and consulting and everything. And that maybe the intermittent fasting was just pushing your body into a big stressor.
Yep.
And that can affect our metabolic panels. It can affect our cardiac panels. And you made that one change. And saw pretty immediate results.
Eat more, like wake up and eat a little thing. And, to nourish my body more. That was your suggestion.
Yeah.
And so I took, I had heart biomarkers done really like about 2.5 months apart from each other, which is rapid to have the changes that I had. And every single heart biomarker was either in a normal and ideal range actually, or trending that way in 2.5 months. So you can make the changes, but you have to know what changes to make.
Yeah,
that's where our stuff comes in too. Not just AI reading you a generic report. Work out more, okay?
Yeah, it's so
like work out more, and then what type of workout, right? And what type of diet, and what about understanding? They never even asked me what my eating schedule was like, or how I ate, or even what my diet was. No, actually, they did ask me the diet, which is why I got so mad about the wild boar.
Oh, that's right. I think it's understanding what the purpose is for each lab testing company, right? So like the purpose of the ones that we both have experience with is information.
Yep.
They're giving you the data points, and it's kind of like, do what you will with this information. Right. We're kind of taking this. Here are some like mild general suggestions. We're taking it from here. Rêve is really different.
Yeah, really different.
We're looking at it. Our whole health team is looking at it from an exercise science perspective, from a functional perspective, from an energetic perspective, relationship perspective, lifestyle. It's so. That's why it's more expensive. It's so much more comprehensive than we're not just giving you data.
And also, I hesitate with the term expensive because what's expensive, right? Yeah. It's expensive to have surgeries. It's expensive to have crime scene periods, or it's expensive to have IVF. It's expensive to feel and look terrible, right? These things we can put a Band-Aid on stuff. Even talking about the aging, a lot of women my age are doing a lot of things that are just a Band-Aid. And if they stop doing those things, like their regular Botox or whatever, they start looking not, like really rapid aging. Why don't you address it cellularly?
Yeah,
you can actually make a lot of changes and look and feel your best and thrive. Aging is a natural part of life. Like, nobody's expecting us not to. Well, that's not true. There are people who think, well, we can never age.
Oh, yeah. I think
I don't know if I'm
entire
there.
Society is telling women they can't age. And we're telling you that it just can look really different than what we've been sold the picture of.
That's right.
Yeah, it gets to, even I'm 32, and even at 32, pretty much everyone I know has done Botox. And
not us.
Not us. And it doesn't have to be that way. We've had a conversation.
You can do whatever you, we really believe that there's choices, right? Like, you can do whatever you want with your body and with your face, but the reality is, for us, it does not make sense, and it doesn't make sense for so many reasons. And one of them is, what is so wrong about wrinkles? It's poetry on my face. Everything that I've been through and my adventures and relationships are a part of me, and I don't necessarily want to hide them. It doesn't mean I want to look old, though. So I do things to take care of myself. And a lot of it is the food that we're putting in our bodies every day, and sleep, and reducing stress. these are going to make more of a difference than whatever you're injecting.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and what's so great about the lab test is that no one wants to hear like lifestyle changes are the key, because it's not glamorous and it's not sexy and it's foundational level stuff. But what makes the lab testing so awesome is you can see in real time, like labs don't lie. I love it.
Yeah, labs don't lie. It's a data point.
They'll tell you exactly how stressed you are. They will tell you exactly what your blood sugar is like. It will, you can't hide. Yeah. And so it's a moment for both. You know, I love working with people in this way, for both of us to come together and say like, okay, now we're getting to like the true authenticity of yourself and your health. Like these labs are going to help us access what is your body trying to communicate with you. You know, then we go through your belief system. What are your beliefs trying to communicate with you? And it's a beautiful thing. But the lifestyle, you know, the interventions, they are where they're at, but the labs will tell you, it'll prevent you from guessing how to change your lifestyle.
That's right.
Which is super important.
Yeah.
And then more incentive to do it.
And you could have low cortisol, which we were talking about. Now it's like this sexy term to have high cortisol.
I know.
And almost like a bragging right. Like, I'm so stressed out. I've worked 70 hours a week and all this. But you could actually be in a functional freeze state from low cortisol.
Yeah, it's way more common than what people think. So oftentimes, especially when we guess with the lifestyle interventions, where people are like, oh, I'm in this high cortisol state. I've seen this with so many people that, and I'm like, well, let's look. You know, let's look at the lab. And oftentimes it will come back that they've been in such a high cortisol state for so long that now their cortisol is actually really low.
Right.
So now there's low motivation, or the overwhelm with low cortisol is really, really real. So difficulty processing information, you know, different parts of your brain work differently. So knowing the difference between those two things alone is really, really invaluable, because you address them differently.
Right. And some of the stuff that we've talked about as well is there's a lot of bad advice out there. So this is part of the reason why looking at the latest science is really a key, which we both do, but also truly understanding how the body works. So we've talked about this before too, where Dr. Stacy Sims was talking to Andrew Huberman about woman and interval training. And this was really important. I was like, Maddie, I told you this is what I've been doing. And we're going to have a video of me running and doing my sprints. Over 40, I would say, women are told to do yoga or do a spin class that's really kind of moderate for an hour or an hour and 15 minutes, go for a long walk, nothing super stressful. Well, it actually can rise your cortisol, and it doesn't give it a chance to regulate. You're just kind of at this state, and it does nothing for your metabolism. It does absolutely nothing to cause the spike, which we want to spike, but then spike it again, and then your body is forced to actually regulate it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we need a stress in our lives or anything to kickstart us into something else. So the science for exercise of women over 40 to really boost, and even really 35 is when it starts slowing down. Mm-hmm. Sorry, but you know, it's happening sooner than people think. But certainly as we get older, it's a myth that you can't reverse your metabolism or lose weight or get rid of the menopause. I used to call it the menopause, like a menopause pot, the pot belly. You can get rid of it with high intensity training. Obviously, you know, we have to legally speak to your doctor before starting an exercise regimen. But stuff like that, where I can say as a former aerobics instructor and personal trainer, I can say, give it 2 months, 3 months of trying this instead of the other things, and you will notice a difference. You will. But we have a course. We literally have courses on it on the community for how to boost your metabolism, and we help. And again, if we run the labs and I can see that it's something not that, we will let you know. But in general, you know, the high interval training is going to help regulate your blood glucose. It's going to help regulate your cortisol. There are so many things out there that are inaccurate.
Yeah. And don't give you the full picture.
They don't look at the full picture.
And especially certainly don't look at women holistically. You know?
Well, they're run by men. So, I mean, I think we're going to, especially since I got into my little thing on LinkedIn the other day where there are a lot Okay, coming from San Francisco and being in the startup world, there are so many men that are running super companies for being superhuman, and I'm not going to try not to have the names of them, but we've all heard of them, these companies. A lot of these guys are tech guys. They have AI backgrounds. They have no health background, no functional medicine background, certainly no holistic background. Most of the guys I know in this world do not date women my age. In fact, actually, Maddie, I think you'd be expired too, like over 30. They don't really like over 30. It's a problem. They don't have the perspective of a woman in their life, say at 35 or 40, trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
They don't even think about extending fertility, because why? They're with somebody who's 25 or 22 who might not have any concerns about it. And as we age, they want to live into 120, but we're supposed to be completely done with our fertility at 30, 35. And I think it's unfair and inaccurate. And it's about time that more women are creating companies to actually address our needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for better or worse, people's personal lives do bleed into values of companies they create. And
not calling anybody out specifically, but you guys know who we're talking about. You know?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. So do we want to be putting our health in our hands of companies created by men with no holistic background, very limited functional background, or AI based? I mean, we know this is the direction the world is trending, you know, AI, lots of data. But what we're missing are the roots, you know, ancient medicine practices. I mean, femininity and women really resonate with softness and personalized touch and community and connection. That's the way women have historically healed.
Right.
And as we transition into this like weird age of Aquarius AI era, you know, we're moving farther and farther away from that. And women are ultimately going to be the people who suffer from that. And we really wanted this. I mean, Rêve is a result of trying to push against that and say, you know, we can show up here in the ways that we need healthcare, create something that we find valuable.
Yes.
So
it's science plus nature,
right?
Exactly so the holistic aspect and ancient ways of healing and women healing together in community, which we really believe in. No AI, the personalization. It's that personalized touch, but also the latest biomarkers, which it's both. And it's okay to be both. And that's what's really important for us.
Yeah.
And then even women being pitted against each other too, like that's what this society has created, where you know, somebody who's my age, somebody who's in their 50s can say a lot about what we did or wish we didn't do when we were in our 20s or 30s, or the ways that we healed stuff. And it's going to show up one way or another, right? Like fibroids for me, they didn't just show up overnight. They didn't just appear at 42. Oh no, they were growing in my 30s and I just wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the stuff that happens when we get into perimenopause is rooted in things, relationships, or the way we eat, or the way we think, or our environment, starting in our early 30s. And it will show up.
Of course.
It's just a matter of time.
And we've talked so much about this, but the issues that people experience trying to conceive and the issues that people experience going into perimenopause, a lot of those root causes are exceptionally similar.
Yeah.
Where people experience the issues, the root causes of those things aren't really different. The transition is very different.
Right.
You know, the end result of what is going on physiologically is different. But the complications that make those processes challenging actually are not different.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so beautiful when we met.
I know.
And we decided to do this together, because one of our sayings is like bridging the gap, you know, allowing women to come together in community.
Yes.
Understanding that there's so much wisdom to be shared. I mean, even just between us, but like between everyone else. And also, you know, understanding that these different phases of life have so much similarity. In
Chinese medicine, especially, I mean, it's an imbalance.
Yeah.
Right. And that imbalance, and we refer to it as hormonal imbalance or in Western medicine, but that imbalance in our bodies, yes, the expression of it is different.
Right.
But the root cause,
it's not so dissimilar.
So dissimilar.
I mean, we have now there's so much specialization. There's so much specialization in, we have neurologists and nephrologists and cardiologists, and we've done the same thing in women's health.
Yep.
You know, we've really separated women based on their age of like what health category they're in. And it's
can I talk about it?
Of
the
course,
surgery?
yes.
We're gonna have this. We're gonna just go. We're just gonna do it during Mercury retrograde when we're filming this. So when I had an emergency surgery because I was hemorrhaging. I was actually hemorrhaging to death. There was blood everywhere. It was interesting that it was the same day as my doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
That one fibroid had decided it was going to birth itself that day, which I don't really believe in coincidences. It was, it was happening. And I was told on the spot that I needed a hysterectomy. I was passed paperwork that said, you got to do this today. And it's like 9 a.m. I had my breakfast and my coffee. So I was like, well, I got 8, I'm not supposed to have surgery. And whoa. And I'll spin to where I'm going to go with this. But the being told that I had to do this particular thing and not having any information about what is going on and having white coat syndrome with a doctor that had no idea who I was. And I ended up having one surgery, myomectomy, for the emergency, and getting them to hold off on the other problems that they had seen, which were more fibroids. And this gets me back to where we were talking about, like, for 6 months, I did go to many specialists, many surgeons in Boston and in San Francisco, and one person in LA, and met with these experts to see how could I avoid a hysterectomy. And one doctor clearly did not look at my medical records or my chart or anything. She just looked at my age. Mm-hmm. She saw 1973 and that was it. She just said, I don't know what your deal is right now. You just need to get a hysterectomy. It'll be so much better for you. Your life will be so much easier. You won't have these problems. And what are you going to do anyway? Have a baby at your age? And it's like, maybe, I don't know, but like, who are you to tell me?
Yeah.
And did you not look, why am I here paying $800 out of pocket for a specialist when it clearly says everywhere in my chart, patient does not want a hysterectomy? Yeah. Why do you think I'm here talking to you? And I got up and left. Because you can do that too. You can fire your doctor.
They work for you. I think people forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a physician, but they work for you. But exactly, this is.
And I fired her.
You fired her. As you should have.
Even with that, they just looked at my age, and even more for me too. It's like we talked about this, that we have different diets, but I don't eat meat. And if one more person said that the reason I was anemic was because I didn't eat meat, no. I was anemic because I had crime scene periods, and I had been a vegetarian since I was 12, so that was not the problem because I'd never been anemic.
Of course.
But when you have your period for, I'm just going to say it, 18 days straight, really, really heavy, you're probably going to be anemic.
Yeah, of course.
Again, looking at, really, I ended up having an amazing surgeon because I did end up having another surgery, but not a hysterectomy. And she's amazing. And I'm so grateful for her. And there are great, great doctors out there who will listen to you. Mm. But I was not listened to for more than 7 years and told I was anxious. It's in my head and maybe I need some anti-anxiety medication. And it turned out I had a 16 centimeter fibroid. Well, and then your story.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very anxious. I'm in my head. Came up a lot.
I
was just tired.
So
bad. I was working too much. But I felt really weird. Something felt really wrong. And it just kept getting worse. And heart palpitations. And I was training for the Boston Marathon, and I'm historically not a runner. It was kind of like an impulsive thing to do. But I remember no, it wasn't. It was awful. And I remember going out for these runs, and they're long runs, and you expect like, oh, I'm going to be tired afterwards. And people would say like, oh, are you sore? And I was never sore, but I would come home and I would feel like I was going to have a heart attack. Like all this chest tightness. I couldn't move for like 3 days not because of body muscle soreness, but because my heart rhythm was so irregular. And I couldn't figure out what was happening to me. And, you know, I worked with everyone, because people kept telling me that this must be anxiety. So I saw therapists and spiritual counselors and somatic coaches, and it just wasn't getting better. And then you really think, you know, what's wrong with me? Like that. Yeah. I just can't regulate my nervous system.
Something's wrong with you.
Something's wrong with you. Yeah. Something's wrong with you. Yeah. It must be you. And it must be in your head.
It doesn't matter what age you are. It happens at 18. It happens at 80.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And then eventually, it's so interesting, even as a practitioner in this space, like you think you know better. And then when you're dealing with an issue, your judgment becomes really clouded. And you were so taught to put our health in other people's hands that ultimately was just seeking opinions and approval from everyone around me, instead of remembering that I can look at labs myself. So eventually I came out of my amnesia and remembered that I can order labs. So
I love the genesis of like, this is really when, yeah.
I all of a sudden realized I could, this is what I do for a living. You know, I help people with complicated issues figure their health out. But it just goes to show that even people like me, who this is my profession, you know, this happens to us too. But yeah, it turned out it was a whole list of things, Lyme disease and heavy metal toxicity. It was all primarily started from mold toxicity from an environment that I had spent a lot of time in over 3 years, which was crazy. So finally figured it out.
Not in your head.
Not in my head. Not in my head. It's never in your head.
It's actually never in your head. If you feel it, and that goes back to even the holistic, how we actually know.
Yeah, women are so intuitive. Yeah. Every single client that I had for functional medicine and acupuncture, I don't even know if I mentioned that. I'm a licensed acupuncturist, but
well, we can go into a little bit about our background, I think, too, but that is important.
Yeah, it is important. Right? I mean, every client, it was, yes, like the labs takes the guessing out of it. Yeah. But what I think the labs really do, which I think is so important, is it allows you to connect to your intuition, because before those labs come back, I'm telling you, you know something that's going to come back on that test. You intuitively feel it. Yep. Like my cortisol's off, or my blood sugar's off, or I don't know, my immune system, like I get sick all the time. Like it's just going to confirm what you already know. So labs are actually, as much as they are like science driven and a little bit like black and white, they are a really powerful way to help you trust your body again.
With validation too, if you do go and bring them back to your doctor to say, wow, and then getting into that, because there's so many things we can chat about, but most doctors can't actually order all these labs. It's not that they don't want to. Mm-hmm. They are beholden to the insurance system and have to have a diagnostic, they have to have a code, right?
Yeah. In order for physicians to order labs through insurance, there has to be a really like justification as to why they're doing it. So you have to be expressing certain symptoms pretty often enough. Yeah. You have to have a confirmed medical diagnosis to order some labs. So it's oftentimes it isn't necessarily that these physicians don't want to, because physicians work with insurance companies. Often it's that they may not be able to. Right. It was so often in my practice, people would say, like, can I just run this through my physician? And I would always say, try and see what they say. And almost always, I would say 98% of the time, people are coming back and just saying like they won't do it. They won't do it.
They can't or won't. Because sometimes it is they won't. And then also that's where the specialist they'll only run it for the one thing that they can do too. So they're not going to look at the whole panel. Right. It's very frustrating. And yes, in some states you can go and get it. It's like direct to consumer. You can go and get your own, but what are you going to get? And where do you know? And they're not going to give you a volume deal on your labs. They really don't care about a one-off. It's none of this is impossible to do, but it's one of the things that like for me, I can't order labs on my own. I'm not a licensed acupuncturist. And so because of that, I had to go through other places or get them on my own. And it was a lot of jumping through hoops. So part of the reason that we created this is it was we wanted it.
Yeah,
we built
course.
Exactly what we wanted from everything we were missing everywhere else.
It's one thing. There's a lot of companies doing functional testing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like bread and butter these days. But I think what is really like what I really would have loved is functional lab testing with women who are going to talk to you about your attachment style and your relationships and the toxicity in your home and a community of women. I mean, it's just what a lovely way and a nurturing way to approach health.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be so scary and so isolating. And it just, to me, it's so beautiful. It's, I mean, truly science and nature, which we both really, really resonate with.
Yeah. And that's actually important too, because there's a lot of stuff on there on the like more extreme holistic that's not actually based in evidence-backed science. And so I think the combination is important.
So important. It has to be both in order to truly heal holistically.
In proactive health, I mean, we've talked about this before. It's not actually healthcare or well care; it's sick care.
Yeah.
And the way even functional medicine is turning into that too, because supplements make a lot of money. So everyone wants to sell the supplements, and you know, I'm not against supplements. I mean, we've talked about doing that too, but you don't need them necessarily.
The focus of supplements has gotten so skewed because we forget the whole point of supplements is to supplement your life. They are not.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, it's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not. The point isn't reliance. The point was to alter your life and supplement in as necessary. And we've just completely forgotten that we can
supplement. That's right.
I know. We can make a lot of these changes in lifestyle-based interventions. A long-winded video to say that we're really excited to be here and to be helping women through all stages of their health journey and bridging the gap together in women's health. It's really amazing.
Well, I think also, you know, we both there's been a lot of quotes on the site and even on Instagram with like the Paulo Coelho, the alchemist, and we were calling it, you know, alchemize your health. And really it's the alchemy of the transformation that you can actually change everything.
Yep.
And epigenetics is such an interesting thing because we talked about there's always outliers, you know, whatever the percentage, it's anywhere from like 5 to 10% of people that do everything wrong. You know, they smoke and they drink and they don't sleep and they live into 100 and, you know, that's great. And then there's the people who do everything right and then, you know, have a heart attack at 35. And so those are outliers. The majority of us who are in the, you know, in the middle, we can actually change the expression of our genes. Not all the time is it, you know, and there are things that can come up, but biomarking testing will actually show you that too.
Absolutely.
But you can make change. You can make positive change and steps in the right direction. When Maddy and I met, we were both building companies to address women's health. And I was focused on perimenopause.
And I was focused on primarily helping women with preconception work.
And when we realized that so many of these issues that women face have the same root cause or a similar root cause, it's like, why are we not building this together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And collaborating
and it's really discontinuing the mentality that different stages of women's health need to be treated separately.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a firm belief at Rêve that all women deserve care at every stage that they're in, and that stage actually isn't so different.
Yeah.
It's really important. We'll see you at the next Maddy Julie couch chat. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.